The movie opens in 1974 with a young girl standing outside her house, eagerly watching for a car. She wonders who it could be, stepping outside to investigate, only to find the vehicle empty. Then, she hears a mysterious voice from behind the house. She follows it, but there's no one there. The next day, a strange man appears behind her and cryptically says, "Your birthday is coming." His face remains partially obscured, but his skin is so pale it seems devoid of blood. Fast forward a few years. We now see FBI agents gearing up to apprehend a dangerous criminal. Our protagonist, Lee, is introduced as part of this team. While tracking the criminal, Lee gets an unusual feeling about a particular house and insists to her partner that the suspect is hiding there. Her partner dismisses her intuition and knocks on the door, but the door suddenly opens, and the criminal shoots and kills Lee's partner. Fortunately, Lee manages to escape in time. Gathering her courage, Lee re-enters the house and confronts the criminal. Pointing her gun at him, she demands he surrender, and he complies. Lee captures him and hands him over to the FBI. Later, during a physical evaluation, it's discovered that Lee possesses some kind of mental ability, allowing her to sense the presence of individuals she's looking for. In the next scene, Lee sits in a car with her senior agent Carter and her new partner. They're parked outside a house as Carter explains its history. A family once lived there peacefully until one day, the father murdered his wife and child before taking his own life. This tragic pattern has repeated in several families over recent years. In each case, the father committed the same series of horrific acts, leaving behind a letter with cryptic codes and the phrase, "Long live." The handwriting on each letter was identical, hinting that a sinister figure named Long Legs may be influencing these fathers, pushing them to commit such terrible acts. The FBI remains clueless about the identity of Long Legs. No one has ever seen him. They turn to Lee, hoping she can crack the case using her unique abilities. As Lee delves into the details, she notices a disturbing pattern. Each targeted family had a 9-year-old daughter with a birthday on the 14th of a month. She gathers more evidence and realizes that Long Legs himself isn't physically present when these families are murdered. This points to the likelihood that someone is assisting him in his horrifying crimes. One night, Carter, Lee's senior agent, has had too much to drink, so she offers to drive him home. At his house, she meets his wife and young daughter. Carter's daughter, excited, shows Lee her room and cheerfully announces, "My birthday is coming up. You have to come." Later, back at her own home, Lee calls her mother and mentions her own upcoming birthday, just as someone begins pounding on her door. When she checks, there's no one there. As she glances out the window, she catches a glimpse of a dark, eerie shadow. Grabbing her gun, she cautiously opens the door, but the figure has vanished. Back inside, Lee feels an unsettling presence, though the house seems empty, except for a letter lying on her table. It reads, "Do not open until January 14th, her birthday." Overcome with curiosity, she opens it. Inside, the letter reads, "Happy birthday," along with coded symbols identical to those left at the other crime scenes, a clear sign that this letter is from Long Legs. Driven to decipher the codes, Lee begins working to uncover their meaning. Just then, she receives a call summoning her to a chilling new crime scene, where another family has been slaughtered. The grisly scene is disturbing. The bodies are decayed, as it's been a month since the murders. Once again, the pattern repeats. The family had a 9-year-old daughter who would have celebrated her birthday on January 14th. The repeated pattern deeply disturbs Carter. Feeling the weight of the relentless case, Lee calls her mother, explaining that she'll be tied up with work for the next few days, but will definitely meet her on her birthday. The stakes are rising as Lee races against time, decoding clues in hopes of stopping Long Legs before another family falls victim. Lee's mother advises her to pray daily for protection from evil, insisting that prayer keeps darkness at bay. Lee brushes it off, assuring her mom that she remembers. Refocusing on the case, Lee pores over the evidence, marking each date on a calendar. She soon discovers an eerie, inverted triangle pattern forming, a known symbol of the devil. This pattern is incomplete, though, and Lee realizes one date is missing, the 13th of the next month. The pattern suggests that Long Legs is planning another murder on that exact date. Lee shares her findings with Carter and mentions that Long Legs had bragged in one of his letters about the pleasure he took in killing the Camera family years ago. This family's murder had been particularly brutal. Even the family priest was killed, though the daughter, Carrie, survived only because she was at school at the time. Carrie, now mentally scarred, resides in a mental asylum. With this lead, Lee and Carter decide to visit the old farmhouse of the Camera family. While searching the property, they uncover a coffin containing a doll that bears an unsettling resemblance to Carrie. When they examine the doll closely, they discover that it's handcrafted and seems to be the work of someone with an obsession for detail. As Lee touches a metal ball attached to the doll, she feels an odd vibration, almost as if a sinister energy is pulsing through it. This sensation conjures images of a snake in her mind, intensifying her belief that the doll is connected to some malevolent force. The scene flashes back to a chilling vision, Longlegs himself meticulously crafting the doll, imbuing it with his twisted energy. This revelation makes it clear that the creator of these dolls, and the architect of the murders, is Longlegs himself. The disturbing connection between the dolls and Longlegs' ritualistic killings solidifies, revealing a dark plan woven deep within each eerie detail. Longlegs, pale as ever, reappears as he heads to a shop, acting erratically and drawing the attention of the girl at the counter. Fixated, he begins questioning her about her birthday, performing odd gestures as if trying to sense something about her. But then, in a fit of frustration, he leaves, getting into his car and letting out an angry scream, perhaps because the girl's birthday isn't the 14th, which doesn't align with his twisted plan. Meanwhile, we learn about Carrie's deteriorated state over the last 20 years. She has been unresponsive to questions or stimuli, trapped in silence and isolation. However, just yesterday, something changed. For the first time, Carrie spoke, surprising everyone around her. The records show that someone named Lee visited her that day, though Lee insists she has never been there before. This mystery stuns everyone, especially since Carrie's sudden recovery seems tied to this unusual visitor. Intrigued, Lee decides to meet with Carrie, who answers her questions in a chillingly obedient manner. A flashback reveals the horrifying night when Carrie's father, under some dark influence, killed the family priest and his own wife. This memory is shown through the eyes of the doll that had been left in the house, hinting at the doll's role as a witness to dark forces. When Lee asks Carrie who visited her the previous day, Carrie becomes eerily intense, stating, "I will never forget the one who came to me. I'll do anything they ask, even kill Lee if I must. I'd jump if they asked." Carrie also mentions a mysterious figure, Mr. Downstairs, though she offers no more clues about his identity. Lee presses her about the doll, but Carrie cryptically says, "I've forgotten everything about the doll, just as you've forgotten." Later, Lee shares her concerns with Carter, explaining that the dolls might be the source of the deadly influence behind these murders. She notes that, in some cultures, dolls are often used as vessels for casting spells. Carter, however, dismisses her theory, but then questions Lee about her personal connection to Longlegs, pointing out that he somehow knows her name. Lee's silence only deepens his suspicion. Carter then reveals that he looked into Lee's background and discovered something unusual. Her mother had once filed a police report against her, though it's unclear why. When Carter confronts Lee about this, she denies knowing anything about it, leaving more questions in the air and hinting at dark secrets in her own past. The mystery around Longlegs thickens. As Lee's personal connection to the case becomes harder to ignore, Carter decides it's time for Lee to visit her mother, hoping she might uncover answers. At her mother's house, Lee is unsettled by her mother's odd behavior. Her mother, gazing at her intensely, asks if she still prays. Lee admits that she doesn't, explaining she now fears prayers. Once a firm believer in God, her faith has shifted, leaving her haunted by doubts. Lee heads to the kitchen, where she spots a worm wriggling up from the basement. The sight triggers a flashback, and suddenly, she sees the same disturbing snakes she's encountered in her visions before. She's momentarily transported to a memory of herself as a little girl, revealing that the child from the film's beginning was indeed young Lee. Snapping back to the present, her mother cryptically asks about a mysterious white-skinned man, Longlegs, who had visited Lee long ago, though Lee remembers nothing. Her mother, visibly uncomfortable, hints that she knows more but can't share it. Instead, she points Lee to her childhood room, where her birthday things still remain. Inside her old room, Lee finds a box containing a photo from her childhood. Another memory surfaces, the day Longlegs visited her as a child. Lee recalls her mother confronting the man, demanding to know who he was and why he was talking to her daughter. In response, Longlegs sang softly, warning, "Let me inside now, or I'll come back again and again to knock on your door." Suddenly, Lee finds an old photo of Longlegs, and a police officer in the present day shows her the image, revealing that Longlegs has asked to meet her. The eerie encounter takes another twist as the officer begins singing a happy birthday song, adding a dark, mocking tone to the interaction. A female agent then brings in Longleg's collection of notebooks, each filled with disturbing writings, pointing to his deep obsession with devil worship, a practice legally permitted but unervingly present in his life. Carter, trying to reassure her, states that Longlegs is already in custody. But Lee isn't convinced, reminding him that Longlegs isn't working alone. Somewhere out there, she believes, his accomplice is still at large, waiting to fulfill the sinister plans that Longlegs left behind. The team remains in the dark about Longleg's mysterious companion, and with the ominous triangle pattern set to complete on the 13th, they fear that another murder is inevitable. Carter decides to confront Longlegs directly, demanding answers about his accomplice and the cryptic Mr. Downstairs. Longlegs, however, responds with a taunting suggestion. "Why don't you ask your mother? She knows more than you think." He then drops several vague but chilling hints, leaving Carter uneasy. The mention of his mother enrages Lee, who slams his head against the table in frustration, breaking his nose and jaw as blood pours down, symbolizing his desperation. Around this time, news arrives that Carrie, the lone survivor of the Camera family massacre, has also taken her own life in the mental asylum. A devastating twist that rattles both Lee and Carter. Determined to uncover the truth, Lee and a female agent set out to question Lee's mother. When they arrive at her house, Lee decides to go in alone, but soon realizes something is wrong. His mother isn't inside. Outside, the female agent waits in her car, only to notice another vehicle parked ominously nearby. It's Longleg's car. As panic sets in, Lee's mother emerges from the shadows, raising a gun and shooting the female agent in cold blood. Hearing the gunfire, Lee looks out the window in horror, frozen by fear. Rushing outside, he finds his mother standing over the agent's lifeless body, her hand still gripping the gun. Shockingly, she then aims the weapon at a doll, an act that appears disturbingly deliberate. The scene leaves Lee grappling with the shocking realization that his mother is deeply entangled in Longleg's sinister web, blurring the lines between ally and enemy as the dark connections unravel before him. Lee's mother, with a chilling smile, tells him, "You freed her, and now you're free too." As soon as she utters these words, black smoke starts pouring out of her head and then from Lee's, causing him to collapse, unconscious. A flashback reveals the twisted truth. Longlegs was a doll maker who served the devil, whom he referred to as Mr. Downstairs. On that fateful day years ago, he had come to deliver a doll to young Lee. This cursed doll erased Lee's memories, leaving him with no recollection of his childhood. The devil's plan was to eventually kill Lee, but Lee's mother made a dark deal to save him, agreeing to assist Longlegs in return for sparing her son. Thus, for years, she acted as Longleg's accomplice, posing as a nun and distributing devil-infused dolls to unsuspecting families. She would convince them that the doll was a gift from the church, never arousing suspicion. Each doll contained a demonic force that would take control of the child's mind, causing them to murder their family and end their own life. And it was Lee's mother who placed the letters in the family's homes, giving Longlegs the power to kill without stepping foot inside. The flashback fades, and Lee awakens to find himself in Longleg's lair, a basement in his own home. Just then, he receives a phone call with a haunting voice saying, "You're late for Carter's daughter's birthday party." Realizing with horror that today is the 14th, Lee understands that Carter's family is the devil's next target. Rushing to Carter's house in Longleg's car, Lee arrives to find her mother already there, along with a doll eerily resembling Carter's daughter. Under the doll's influence, Carter and his wife move to the kitchen to prepare the birthday cake. Suddenly, Carter, in a trance, attacks his wife, stabbing her fatally. He then turns on his daughter, but Lee intervenes, shooting Carter to save the child. In the chaos, Lee's mother, fully consumed by the devil's control, takes a knife from her bag and attempts to kill Carter's daughter. With no choice, Lee shoots her mother, ending her life. She then turns to destroy the cursed doll, but her gun has run out of bullets. Desperate, she urges the terrified child to run to safety. However, as the girl flees, Lee finds herself staring at the doll, transfixed, as if it were pulling her under its dark influence. In the final twist, Longlegs reappears, very much alive. Laughing maniacally, he chants, "Hail Satan!" revealing that the cycle of evil and death is far from over. Lee, now corrupted by the devil's touch like her mother, joins Longlegs in his sinister mission. Her birthday, too, falls on the 14th, marking her as a chosen one for the devil's plans. The pact her mother made has only delayed the inevitable, and now, with her mother gone, Lee is fated to take her place by Longleg's side, carrying on the horrific legacy. With this, the movie ends. If you liked this video, then do not forget to subscribe to the channel after liking the video.